I think what it has helped us to do is to appreciate the great impact of homegrown initiatives. What Gachacha was able to do in delivering justice to 2 million people in a short period of time, some Western systems of justice are unable to do in 100 years. So we've noticed that homegrown solutions may be able to deal with questions of efficiency, which is the cost of delivering justice, of delivering service to people. The second, broaden participation, broaden ownership, broaden inclusion, broaden accountability and transparency beyond just the fiction, the theory of it. Very practical accountability, and get communities to participate in the delivery of service and also in the delivery of justice. So that's the same for other Obudehe and other forms that allow for communities to assess their needs, to be part of authoring solutions to their, so they become real citizens, not just subjects that receive development.
Yes, we have to look back at our history. So before colonialism, we had our own values, and we had countries and societies to lead. So if we did well that time, which was interrupted by colonialism with new values which came from foreign land, we have to revisit them. So once we know exactly what we inherited from the colonialists, if there's anything positive, take it and add it to our own core values we had. So it's the total sum of those values and what we got from the newcomers that you can put together and devise new ways of coming. So we don't dwell too much on the past, as I was saying. You pick what you have from that time and build the future. And that's why we have been talking about the youth. If you don't transform the youth, you cannot transform the world. You cannot transform the country. Rwanda today is being governed by the same youth who had no hope whatsoever at the height of genocide 20 years ago. They had suffered everything they can. They saw violence, they saw dead bodies, they saw everything. It's the same youth which has been transformed into a driving force. And that's the future of a country.
The whole focus from the first conference, and even from this conference, is really on trying to develop homegrown initiatives, see what the homegrown initiatives are, to research them, to understand what's working in various areas in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, and then to allow people to put in place those initiatives from the ground up, not from the top down. So it's the people who decide what's good government.
I think that we have looked for too long to the Western ways of doing things to the detriment of our progress. And I feel encouraged by the innovations and the different approaches, really homegrown, participatorily generated, where people on the ground are consulted to come up with possible solutions to, in a way, understanding and dealing with the challenges that your country is facing. For me, I think that is something that other countries should look up. The different approaches, the unique, innovative methodologies that Rwanda is implementing, even demonstrated by the tool, for instance, that the Rwanda Governance Board has brought to the stage of measuring the performance of democracy in this country, is unique in itself. Something that we need to study well, understand, see what works well for us, and replicate.
Learning from what others have done, right? And you're interrogating what they've done. And then you're going further to try and see how you can then try to either replicate them or adopt them to your situation, wherever you are. So what you're trying to say is that at the end of it all, knowledge generation only makes sense to the extent to which it is contextualized, put into context within the environment where you are. So that process by itself only begins when you begin to understand what others who have been in a more or less worse off or a similar situation like yours have been trying to grapple with to move forward. So for instance, what has emerged here is a fundamental role that leadership plays. So the question is, what type of leadership? How do we manufacture that leadership? How do we know that leadership has evolved? How do we sustain it? How do we protect it? How do we replicate it?
Talking about homegrown solutions, I think I'll talk about it in context with the paper that I wrote, because it's about Africa and the importance of homegrown solutions. And this paper, I'm arguing that it's the time that Africa has to consider their homegrown solutions and initiatives. And that is about putting into context their situations, because African countries are undergoing different situations and based on different challenges. So I'm saying the argument is that they should think about the challenges they are facing and look at the situation that they are in and look at the needs of their people and then come up with the solutions that suit exactly the demands and the needs of the population. Other than looking at the international demands, they should look at the needs of their population, and especially this should be done in relation to the traditional or history of different countries. And because most of the countries actually in Africa have got common values and norms which actually guided them in the governance that they held before colonization, the argument is that they should think about the traditional best practices which actually should come now, should make the homegrown solutions, and so that they can really solve the problem to the root causes of the problem, other than just touching it on the surface. So the argument is that homegrown solutions, I'm defining homegrown solutions, are those solutions that are based on the tradition and then being modified to suit the modern demands and the international standards. So that's what I can talk about homegrown solutions in brief, in connection to the argument of my paper as a researcher and a scholar.
Well, if you look back at what people have been talking about in terms of papers read and so on, all agree, especially with the Rwandan team, that we have to get homegrown solutions to problems which are inherent to human nature. If you do not believe in a single minute that you yourself can solve the problems, and you have to rely on somebody from outside. And as you know, in Kinyarwanda we say, "Akimuhana kazi mvurizi." You cannot rely on somebody else from outside. You know? So you have to be centered on yourself first, introspectively say, what can I do and how can I do it with my people and how do we do it better? So that's what we call homegrown solutions. You have to look at the root causes, you know them better than anybody else. So once you know them, then you can say, how do I group them if there are many, and how do I tick one after each other to say, yes, I have addressed this one, I have addressed. That way you can say homegrown.